Hello, I'm Paul Orselli, President and Chief Instigator at POW here on Long Island, and I'm delighted today to be joined by Ryan Jenkins. Hey Ryan, how you doing?
Great, Paul. Thanks for having me.
You bet. So, first off, where are you tuning in from?
So, for the past 3 years, I've been living in a city called Freiburg in the southwest corner of Germany.
Wow. So here we are spanning the world through the benefits of technology. And we're going to talk a little bit about making and a new book on the horizon. But before we launch into that, I always like to ask people a little bit about their background because I think it's always super interesting how people get into this business. So Ryan, how is it that you got into this business?
Yeah, I was thinking about that a little bit before we chatted, and it's really funny. I started working at the Exploratorium Science Center in San Francisco, California, but until I got a job there, I never thought of myself as a science person. So all throughout school, all throughout high school, all throughout college, I said, science is not for me. I can't do it. My mind doesn't work in this way. And I always gravitated more towards art and literature and those sorts of courses. And I really applied to work at the Exploratorium a bit by chance. I started there as an explainer, which is the floor staff of the museum who wear bright orange vests and talk to visitors and dissect cows' eyeballs and do magic tricks and all kinds of fun things. And yeah, it was just such an amazing period for me because I met all kinds of artists and scientists and educators who got me thinking about this idea that science is not some like esoteric subject, but it's really a way of asking questions and understanding the world. And through having lots of experiences, I started to say, you know what, this is actually kind of cool. It's actually fun to try to engage with science in this way.
Oh, that's super. That's good. I was just visiting the Exploratorium, actually, visiting one of my sons out in San Jose, and then we went to San Francisco, went to the Exploratorium, always fun. But maybe that's apropos the type of museum that the Exploratorium is, which really sort of looks at that intersection between art and science and perception. And also, as somebody else who started their museum career as an explainer, even though I am a science person, I always think people who have worked on the floor and have been responsible
Yeah.
for interacting with the public and fixing exhibits, those are my people. So,
Well, and
but
you just get to try something over and over again. I mean, that was so exciting for me is that, you know, every time you just walk around and say, hey, do you want to check out this thing? And then you try a little bit different the next time and a little bit different the next time. And you start to be really comfortable iterating on your facilitation and your way of working. And so for me, it was like really eye-opening about what a role in education or a role in museums could be like.
yeah, one time somebody said to me, this might be the 100th time you're doing a cow eyes dissection, but it's the first time that most of these people are seeing it. So you have to keep that in mind. And like you say, the iteration is very important.
Well, and then I think just to go on what you were saying before about the Exploratorium and kind of what makes that special place. So I was there for a little more than 10 years. And one of the things that really struck me always about the Exploratorium was this idea that the shop where all the exhibits are tested and made and built and fixed and refined is like on display in the center of the museum. And it's something that's open and it's transparent. And it's not like we're the experts who are behind the scenes preparing everything for you and then presenting it to you, but we're showing you kind of how the sausage gets made, if you
Yeah.
say. And so the group that I was a part of at the Exploratorium called the Tinkering Studio was actually all about making a gallery where people could go through some of those same processes that the exhibit developers and the builders and the designers and the scientists go through, where they could really test things out, ask questions, work with their hands, practice using tools, and that we could also be transparent to say, hey, you are really engaging in the process of science, the process of art, the process of engineering when you just come as a visitor to the museum.
Process is a very good word to use, I think, because so often when people go to museums, and all sorts of museums, art museums, history museums, natural history, what have you, science centers, oftentimes what is shown to them, or what we as museum people show to them, is the product, the end product. Like, here's this finished exhibit, or here is a painting. But the process is, as you well know, very interesting and an important part. And sometimes it's not just a neat process. It's like, oh, here's Vincent van Gogh's Starry Night, like like it was painted like a paint by numbers thing. Of course it wasn't, or of course a steam locomotive on display in a museum. How did you end up with this thing? So maybe that would be a good thing to just expand on. I think maker spaces and tinkering spaces and those sorts of process oriented spaces, especially in science centers, science museums, children's museums. Um, Talk to me a little bit about that, the sort of beauty of the process and letting people in on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was a big part. If I think back when we started working on this tinkering studio space, just this word tinkering was a way to emphasize the types of workshops, the types of activities we're doing. It's not follow the steps and then everyone comes to the same result, but it's really about the questions you have, the ideas that come up, the way you get sparked by an example, the way something doesn't work, and then you have to devise your own solution to fix it.
Often,
And
often.
and always, and we saw that and still see that. That's where the real learning happens. The learning happens as you are testing and iterating and trying and experimenting. And the beauty to me of a maker space or a tinkering studio is that I think all learning is like this, right? All learning is messy. I think all learning is
We hope,
non-linear,
we hope.
right? And it's not I love this quote by there's an educator called John Holt who is he had a book called I think Growing Without Schooling, and
Yeah.
he talks about this idea of learning how to play the cello, and he's like, okay, that makes it seem like there's learning to play the cello and then there's playing a cello, and they're two different things. And he says, no, like I'm just playing the cello and I'm beginner, and then I get more experience, then I get more experience. And it's not that there's some moment that you cross over into now I'm playing the cello, now I'm doing science, now I'm doing art. That's happening as you are playing with materials and working with your hands. And the beauty to me about the maker spaces and tinkering studios in science centers or across all kinds of educational settings is that when people are working on an actual physical object, you can see that. Like as a facilitator, I can see um oh, this was a little tweak they had to make, or here's a point where the tape didn't work and so then they tried hot glue, or here's where they added on. And so you have a physical object that really represents all of the ideas and questions and discoveries that happened along the way.
Yeah, it's interesting. You have to hold. So I'm gonna say I'm learning, which I am learning to speak Bulgarian because I get to go to Bulgaria a lot. I felt like I should know how to say more than hello and goodbye. So, but when you're learning something or becoming a player of a cello or an instrument, that's another good example. Learning a language, studying an instrument, you have to hold this dichotomy. Like, you are going to be bad. You are going to make lots of mistakes. You want to be perfect, but to really get better at something, you need to sort of realize you're going to make mistakes and learn from those mistakes so you can iterate through. It's an interesting challenge, especially when kids often, especially in school, are like, okay, there's a right answer. You want to be correct and stuff. And that is true. You want to get better, but to get better, you have to be bad and make mistakes.
Well, and I mean, I just think about, I mean, it's also in the best case scenario, having these sorts of maker spaces or tinkering studios in museums also give us as facilitators, as learning designers, as exhibit builders, also the chance to do this. Because I mean, I have so many memories of setting up an activity in a way that didn't work well when I was first getting started at the exploratory activity. I mean, I remember we were have this wind tube that you might see in a lot of museums where you're putting different objects and noticing how they fly. And I remember the first time I did this, I like grabbed every single material I could find in the whole storage room and brought it all out of the floor. So this is gonna be great. We're gonna bring everything out. So creative, so many possibilities. And it was just chaos. And I spent, the whole activity kind of ducking and like trying to kind of prevent, everything from going out of control. And through time, myself and the group, we decided, okay, let's try just with 3 things. Let's try just with 2 things. Let's try with scissors. Let's try without scissors. Let's try with tape. And that process, having a space, having a workshop on a museum floor in a corner of a library, in a part of a classroom. I mean, that's also such a great time for us as educators to be able to test out ideas and be bad. I mean, I work a lot with teachers and museum educators, and say, look, it might not work the first time you try or the 10th time you try. And we are also learning, and we are also engaging in that process of tinkering as we're trying out these activities.
Yeah. Well, so it turns out that you have a book about making and tinkering on the horizon here, and so maybe you can tell us how it is that in the same way, like how did you end up in the museum business? Well, how did you end up? What prompted the creation of this book?
It's a great question. And now the process of doing a book is so long. I mean, I think it was now 3 or 4 years ago
Oh,
that
always longer than you think.
exactly. Yeah. And I mean, I see the finish line now, but we're still some months away from that. But you know, I've been thinking for a long time, while I was at the Exploratorium for the past 6 or 7 years now. I've been a freelancer, so I'm working on my own, doing tinkering and making projects, and always have kind of had this question about how can people continue the experience that they might have in a tinkering studio, in a maker space, when they're at home, when they're with their families in their free times, how to make these types of projects not just like only reserved for the special day when you go to the museum, but really part of your daily life, and something you can return to over and over again. So I got contacted by my editor Diana at Story Publishing, who's putting out the book, and we started thinking about how could we put together a collection of materials and projects and artists and prompts that could at least give some suggestions to people how they might, how kids, how adults, how parents, how educators could start trying tinkering projects and engage themselves in that process.
You're trying to create a whole new army and wave of tinkerers all around the world. That's awesome.
Definitely.
And you were kind enough. I've gotten a little sort of sneak preview of the book, and it's certainly a beautiful book, I'll say, filled with all sorts of colorful images and things to inspire people. And it seems like you've divided the book into, I'm going to say, some tinkering topics, but at the very beginning of the book, you've given people some, I'm going to say, tinkering foundations and some ideas about materials and the spaces. So maybe you can share a couple of what you think, both from your work, like live in-person work, and also now developing a book. What you think are some of the essential ingredients of good tinkering for people to think about?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really about making it personally meaningful for them. So one of the things that I like to focus on in my work and also in this book is having familiar everyday materials as the basis of the tinkering projects. I don't think anything in the book is using, an expensive laser cutter 3D printer. I mean, we're using cardboard and
I
hot
didn't see
glue
any
and
special welding machines in the book listed,
ex
but I saw a lot of
yeah, exactly.
glue and wire.
Yeah, and so for me, I mean, I think that's really important is that part of tinkering is imagining new possibilities with what you have around you, what you're familiar with, what's the box that always the box that the delivery comes in is the most exciting part of the delivery. So some of the projects uses big cardboard boxes, and even some of the specialized materials, like there's some things in the book around using LEDs or using motors, but even some of those, maybe you can scavenge them from existing things. So we talk about clipping off Christmas lights and using those LEDs, dissecting a singing and dancing toy and taking the motors from that. So really, I think working with the types of materials that and that you like, and I say in the beginning of the book that if you don't have something, find another solution, find something else, try a different idea. And so I think I'd like to empower people in that way. um, it's interesting because when I'm in a museum or in a classroom, there's a lot of work that myself and my colleagues do in terms of setting up an environment for tinkering, where the materials go, what kind of examples are around. So I think that was something that I wanted to also emphasize in this beginning part of the book, that for yourself, you can set up your own environment for tinkering. So having a little workspace, hanging up some printouts of things that inspire you, having some sort of way to organize your materials so you're not constantly trying to find the right tool or the right part. And so of course, like it's going to be really open-ended. I mean, whoever reads this book is going to be in charge of making up their own tinkering environment. But I wanted to try to give some tips about having light, having even a glass of water, that you could take a break and take care of the human creature comfort side while you're working, because this can be hard work sometimes. So you want to build a space that you feel supported in, let's say.
Yeah, it's funny, two things. One is I remember reading an early list from the Exploratorium of things that they thought a workshop, an exhibits workshop should have. And I think one of the things on the list was a coffee maker, so that,
Yeah.
people could have things. But also I was struck when you were talking, one of my favorite definitions of creativity is using familiar things in unfamiliar ways. And I think that sort of spirit comes out in your work and in your book. So Speaking of the book, and since this will ultimately be on YouTube, I'm sure we can put some resources and stuff below, links and resources to you, your work and that. But will we be also able to put a link to where people will eventually be able to get the book?
Yeah, definitely. So the book, yeah, I should say it's called The Tinkering Workshop, and it's coming out in October. Exact date is a little bit in flux, but it's
It's all
sometime in
right.
October of 2024. It's going to come out. You can pre-order it now.
Oh, well, so we'll make
And
sure we put
so
that link.
you'll put the link on there for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, Ryan, always a pleasure to see you and hear about your work. And I know I just couldn't help but laugh when you were talking how long it takes to do a book. I think it's like a museum too. We never think it's going to take as long as it does, and somehow that is the trick we use to drive us forward. But I'm glad that your book is coming to fruition and we will be able to pre-order it and see it, get it for ourselves. So thanks so much.
Thanks, Paul. Really great chatting with you as always.
All right, take care.
Bye.